Hey there, it's Mr. G with the history of the atomic model. Our understanding of the atom has changed a great deal over the last few centuries, and here is a quick overview of how it has. Back in 440 BC, Democritus, this guy right here, who was not made of stone, came up with an idea. I think he was probably at a dinner party and saw the last brownie in the pan and thought, oh, I'll just take half of that, because he was trying to be respectful and considerate guy. And so he took half of that. And the next person came along and took half of that. And the next person came along and also trying to be respectful took half. And and Democritus was probably wondering to himself, I wonder how many times we can take half and still have it be a brownie. How small a piece of brownie can you have and still have it be a brownie? And in fact, he thought about this in terms of the elements of what the basic stuff of matter was and how small could you get it and still have it be that element. And what he came up with was the idea of an indivisible particle, a particle that is so small that you couldn't divide it anymore. It was probably, in his mind, just like a solid little steel sphere or a marble, something just hard and indivisible, but really tiny, of course. And that was the smallest thing he could get. He called it atomos, or which is the Greek word, of course, for indivisible particle. And we've used that now to refer to the atom. You can do the same thing with a piece of foil. Of course, if you tear up a piece of foil and keep tearing and tearing and tearing and tearing, you'll get down to the point where you have just a single aluminum atom. And it only takes about 30 tears. By tearing it in half 30 times, you'll get down to a single atom, which doesn't seem like much, but give it a shot and you're not going to get close. The aluminum foil, in fact, is is about 50,000 atoms thick. That's just the thickness of it. Atoms are just incredibly, incredibly tiny. And the problem, of course, is trying to find them, is that even our most powerful microscopes, like this huge one right here, is not powerful enough to see atoms. Only recently, in the last 20 or 30 years, have we gotten to the point where we can actually see atoms with a microscope, a very special kind of microscope. But back in my day, our early microscopes just didn't do it. Even microscopes in the of 200 or 300 years ago, they've got better glass than they used to, and this was one of the early microscopes. Still, not enough to see anything that small. Even today's microscopes, similar to this one here, that are got very nice optics and very high resolution and good magnification. You get down in there, you can see human cells. Here's some cheek cells here, but cells are not atoms. Cells are a lot bigger than atoms. They're made of a lot of atoms. And if you look at a human hair, for instance, or you can look across there and you go, okay, well, how wide is one human hair? A human hair is about 1 million atoms across. I mean, atoms are so stinking small. You can, at the very limit of a microscope like this, you're looking at bacteria. These little guys, each of these little tiny pink dots here, they look like little jelly beans. Each of those is one single bacterium. And a single bacterium, like that one right there, probably has approximately 10 billion atoms per bacterium in one little bacterial cell. So think about how many atoms there might be in a cheek cell. It's much, much larger. We're talking trillions of atoms. And of course, you have maybe 100 trillion cells in your body. And so each of those with 100 trillion atoms or so, yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous, ridiculous number. If you really want to visualize this, we've got to take a little magic school bus journey with Mrs. Frizzle. And if we can shrink ourselves down so small that we can walk up next to the edge of a ruler, we're talking tiny, 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 a 1/1,000,000th of our original size, to the point where 1 millimeter on this ruler would look like a full kilometer, which is about the distance between the Sisters Middle School and the edge of the town of Sisters. So it's a little over about a half mile. That's huge. It's enormous. This ruler would look to us, if we walked up to the edge of this ruler at 1/1,000,000th of a scale, it would look to us like it was the size of most of Oregon. It would stretch from Sisters at the 0 point here all the way over to Idaho. And it would be as wide as, say, Sisters, almost down to Lapine. And the thickness of this ruler, just the very thickness of it, would be, it would look like a giant cliff, a huge wall, a vertical wall of wood that's about 10,000 feet tall, about the height of say, North Sister. this thing would look ridiculously large. And so would we be the size of an atom? No, we would actually not. An atom at that scale would still be even smaller than us. We would be about the size of a single bacterium. And so an atom would look like a very, very small piece of dust at this scale. So think about how many pieces of dust it would take to make a ruler that stretched from here to Idaho. And that's how many atoms are in a ruler. A ridiculous number, an absolutely ridiculous number of atoms in the most common everyday objects. So atoms are just incredibly, incredibly small. So Democritus, he was made of atoms, obviously. You are too. And you are probably made of millions of his old atoms. They're in your body. Once he dies and starts to decay, the atoms that make up him start to bond to other atoms and form different molecules, and atoms just kind of keep getting recycled and recycled and recycled. And so you literally have millions of his atoms in your body. Millions, of course, out of the 100 trillion cells that you have, each made of trillions of atoms, of course, is not really all that much. You've also got atoms from Socrates and from George Washington and from Marie Curie and all kinds of folks that have died, or you even have atoms of people that are living. As we eat food and take it in, we're part of, for instance, the carbon cycle. So a carbon atom, for instance, that's in carbon dioxide in the air may get used by a tree during photosynthesis, and it'll take that carbon atom, rearrange it, and stick it together with some hydrogen and oxygen and become sugar. The sugars make up the tree, which gets eaten by an animal, perhaps, and that carbon atom becomes part of that animal. And then later on, it will be breathed out as it combines with oxygen and form carbon dioxide back in the atmosphere. And you can see that carbon atoms just go through all kinds of cycling through the atmosphere and through our natural systems. And the same things happen with all different kinds of atoms, not just carbon. Atoms just stick around for a long time. They're quite durable. They just don't go away very easily. They just get recycled a lot. So to sum up, really, so far atoms are essentially just really, 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 really tiny. They're small. They're just unbelievably small. And secondly, they are incredibly durable. They last a long time. They just don't break apart really very easily at all. In fact, in very rare cases do they do so.